This is also not one of my like presentations that I have in the can that I dust off. Chad called me last week and said, hey, let's talk about FGCU policy. And my question to him was, do we have policy? To which then we had a long, telephone chat. And he's like, well, talk about that. And I was like, okay. And I had a public policy class as part of the MPA, Program Masters in Public Administration, but that was probably 15 years or so. So some of these things will be like directly relatable to a policy class. Some of these things will be more of the reality, nitty-gritty of when you work for an organization. Certainly differs from how you get policy passed in government, more organizationally. So let me get my PowerPoint up here and going. Again, not a normal discussion that I normally give, but I'm also not a very polished speaker where I have things very well memorized. I'm happy to go off on tangents. I'm happy to have you all stop me along the way and ask me questions, comment, get clarification. Same goes for you. If I start running too far down the rabbit hole, feel free to get the hook and bring me back. So it's more relatable to class. Or if something that's relatable to class, feel free to jump in because I'm not one of those very disciplined speakers. So who am I? My name is Kathleen Crawford. I am the Environmental Sustainability Coordinator at Florida Gulf Coast University. As of October, I celebrated my 19th year working in higher education. I have worked between Florida Gulf Coast University, then over to FSW, and then back to FGCU. During those times, I've shifted back and forth between business operations and sustainability. And I've always infused sustainability wherever I go, wherever I work. People ask me, oh, come talk about sustainable jobs. Well, all jobs are green jobs, right? No matter where you go, you may be the one who are ordering supplies. You may be the one who, you might not have anything to do with anything else except you're the one to make sure that everybody recycles and you turn off the lights, and maybe you're the one paying the electric bill. In some way, all of our jobs are green jobs. How do we make them more efficient? How do we make them more sustainable? So I've always kind of worked in sustainability, even when I was doing business operations, contract management, auxiliary services to higher ed. So we're going to talk a little bit today about the department that I work in, which is environmental health and safety. We'll go a little bit about sustainability. I'm going to try to keep it more like policy and practice-based. What are FGCU's commitments to sustainability, whether we have a direct policy related to it or not. This was fun, is how a policy gets passed. Have you guys looked at that here at FGC?
Not at FGC.
What the process is in 50 steps or less? Yeah, getting a policy passed here is an interesting process. How to win friends and influence others, very important in building constituencies and allies and things like that. And what are methods of advocating when you're interested in a policy passing or a rule or any of those types of things. And then anything else y'all want to talk about. So, and I normally walk around a lot, but up to social distance, I'm going to stay back here in my corner.
You have the line, they can walk in front of those.
Oh, okay, cool. But then, it's easier to step back here and do the clicky too. Okay, so Florida Gulf Coast University Department of Environmental Health and Safety is the department that I work in. And it's really a hodgepodge of things over there. We wear a lot of different hats, hence the cool picture. Our department does risk assessment. We do insurance, we buy the insurance and we do the insurance claims. We try to go out and risk mitigate to make sure that there aren't holes for people to fall into or things for people to trip over. Usually our biggest accident are slip, trips, and falls. However, we have been overtaken by impact injuries, like being run over by things and run into things and having things thrown at you, I guess, I don't know. We conduct safety inspections, both in the laboratories, in the workshops, just general offices. We ensure that we stay within regulatory compliance. We'll talk a little bit about that in a future slide. We manage hazardous materials and waste. We minimize waste on campus. We do the workplace safety training. Where does sustainability come into all of this, right? Then there's the Office of Sustainability, Office of One, Kathleen Crawford, that's me. So again, we're very decentralized here as far as sustainability. There is also a counterpart over on the academic side that's in the Center for Environmental Sustainability Education. That's Dr. Jen Jones. Dr. Jen Jones handles things that are academic and academic outreach out to the K through 12s in the region, internally working with professors and things like that. She handles academics. I'm more on the operational side of things. And then we monitor and protect some of our environmental systems. I'm basically, I guess if you could call it, I'm the green accountant, right? I'm the one who goes and tracks how sustainable we are. Because I'm only one person, right? I cannot make the university sustainable on my own. It takes the village, right? So it's everybody's. So again, all jobs are green jobs. The reason why we are successful as a university is because it is more than just Kathleen Crawford and Dr. Jen Jones as our, wonder twin powers. Okay, so what are some of the external agencies that impact environmental health and safety here? These are just some of the people that we report to. These are some of the people that we have to follow their rules, their regulations, and their policies. So if they have a policy, do we necessarily need a policy internally if it's already law or if it's already something that we have to follow with the state? So we have to follow fire protection, Department of Transportation. A lot that we have to do is with the EPA/DEP. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection is the basically Florida arm of the EPA rules and regulations. We work with OSHA, et cetera, Department of Health, those types of things. Some of the things, we just ended up last week having an MS4 audit. And MS4 is the not the wastewater, but the storm runoff water. It used to be a county job to manage our stormwater, make sure that our inlets and outlets aren't clogged, that we have flood mitigation, and that we aren't polluting. That was a county issue. However, once FGCU got up to a certain size, they're like, you're as big as a municipality. You get to now be in charge of your own stormwater plan. And it was really quite a number of years into working at FGCU that I realized that our sewer drains don't go to the sewer. Pardon me, I have to keep that on because I have a sick child. Our sewer drains don't go to the sewer. Everything that ends up on the ground here, we can turn it off if we want. Everything that ends up on the ground here actually ends up in our waterways. Or it ends up clogging our outlets for stormwater, which then adds to flooding and things like that. So we have thousands of these inlets and outlets across campus. We have students that get service learning by going out and inspecting them, and we make sure that we don't have pollution that's running off into them. As you guys know, we have environmentally sensitive land here on campus. When the university was built, we were built on very sensitive, help me with what DRGR stands for. I know it's the Groundwater Recharge System, but I can never remember what the acronym stands for. We'll just say that it's the recharge for filtration for the water, the wetlands and things like that, so that we don't pollute. Okay, here's a good one too. Because we are part of this stormwater plan, it is actually against DEP regulations for us to wash cars, mowers, oil changes and things like that on campus. All of those things are actually not permitted. If you look into the housing rules, any of you that have lived on housing, you will see in the housing rules that it says in there that you're not allowed to do car washing, That's why a lot of times when we have RSOs that want to do a fundraiser, they want to do that on campus, we say no, you need to go to, that's why a lot of them are at the gas stations and things like that, because those actually have like water reclamation areas where that water isn't just flowing into our waterways. So here's one that's close to our hearts. Now, glitter's not gonna clog and make us flood, but glitter and confetti, both plastic-based, they break down into plastic. They don't biodegrade. They just become smaller pieces of plastic. They become harmful for our wildlife on campus, and it also washes out into our waterways. So this is the time of year where we usually do big campaigns, because our campus is beautiful, right, for photography. People get their cap and gown, they go out and they get their photos of cap and gowns, and then ultimately we get the glitter shot or the confetti shot. Chad will tell you, it is impossible to clean up. It is, do you want to say any words on glitter? I know
I
it's a
think I've given you all
passion
the
for
warning, right? I will track you down. Yeah. So don't use glitter. But if anybody would like to go look at it the underneath of the boardwalk, I'm happy to take you down there at some point in time, and just let me know, and we'll go down there like cave trolls, and we can dig glitter out of the mud.
Yeah. And we've gone back and forth too about, do we need a policy on these kind of things? Well, technically, it's against the law already. Littering is against the law. One of the problems we have is enforcement. You know, by the time we come upon, this one is just so great. That's a lot of glitter in that picture. That was one that the Wildlife Club had come upon a year or so ago. Once we come upon that, we have no tracking of who did it. It's really hard to hold them accountable. Even if we have a policy on campus, it's against the law, we're not finding them. And then, not saying that the police don't want to enforce it, but it's certainly maybe a competing priority with safety and some of the other things. We only have so many officers to go around. Glitter's litter, y'all. Chad will hunt you down and tear you up. Now, the problem we had this year, unfortunately, is with COVID, it's messed up our timelines for when we normally beat the drum on this. We usually have the Alumni Association will package a lot of material up for the grads because, you know, they want you to join the Alumni Association. So we're always able to get them our materials in the, you know, graduation packs that say, don't do this, glitter is litter, you know, use Photoshop, use natural materials, do something other than doing this. But this year is not the typical picking up your cap and gown, your regalia. So we may have missed an opportunity this year, unfortunately, to get the information out to the grads. The problem is too, is we're finding these things earlier and earlier. Is it a birthday? Is it an RSO event? Is it a sorority event? We are working, we also have a director of sustainability for student government, and he is working and looking at, are there ways that we can put it in the student government budget process? So when an RSO is requesting funding, you know, to say this is a disallowable purchase, and different other ways that we can continue layering in, you know, this, so that we keep hearing it all these places, so that hopefully we reach a broad population. There were some other things that they were going to do to hopefully combat glitter, hopefully. A couple of these are our social media posts. These are posts that reach farther than any of our normal posts. So say we have 800 people following us on Facebook. You're lucky if 30 people see your stuff, right? Same thing with Twitter. And we have really gained a lot of traction on this, not just within FGCU, but our otter is super popular, and it's probably too small for you to see, but it's nearly 5,000 impressions on that, where our normal thing would get maybe 30. We got into Bloomberg national recognition for this, because this isn't just a problem at FGCU. People are glittering, it's a fad, like everywhere. So plastic confetti, bad. Glitter, bad. Okay, so let me give you a brief thumbnail history lesson of sustainability at FGCU. We won't spend a lot of time on this, but hello, Dr. McTarnigan. He was our university's first president, and he, among others, built sustainability right into the mission right from the get-go. Now, some of those reasons are because it was already environmentally sensitive land that we built on. So there was a lot of community engagement wanting to make sure that we didn't mess up the wetlands, that we didn't, unduly create suburban sprawl, which has kind of already happened all around us. But they did work with outside forces to almost force us into a sustainability commitment, which I'm okay with. This is just a part of the university's mission statement. Basically, this entire part of the mission statement deals with sustainability, especially as the broader definition that we see like in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So we emphasize innovative, student-centered teaching and learning, practices and promotes environmental sustainability, and I have that in green for a reason, embraces diversity, nurtures community partnerships, values public service, encourages civic responsibility, and cultivates habits of lifelong learning and the discovery of new knowledge. The reason why I have practices and promotes environmental sustainability is during the period that I like to call my sabbatical, where I left FGCU and went to work at FSW before coming back to FGCU, all of a sudden it was hitting the news that FGCU was going to change its mission statement to where the mission statement wasn't going to be practices and promotes environmental sustainability. They were going to get rid of practices. We were just going to promote sustainability. We were not going to walk the walk. We were just going to talk the talk. And I was like, what the? I leave the job. This is why we can't have nice things, right? I was like, I was frothing over at FSW going, what is going on? Well, students who have a very powerful voice, I think a lot of people, faculty and staff too, were kind of outraged by it, but it was really the student voice pushing back on that. So it's very small up there, but basically it's a copy of the Eagle News saying that the FGC Board of Trustees reinstated the phrase practices sustainability back into the mission statement after backlash from the FGCU community. And I think the Board of Trustees said, oops, wow, what an oversight. That's not what we meant to have happen. Of course we'll bring practices sustainability back in. And again, I'm not exactly sure what the catalyst was where they wanted to take it out in the first place. I don't know if they paid by the word or something, but it did go back in there, and it's because student voice is a powerful thing. And we'll talk about that throughout this PowerPoint. Okay, are we sustainable? How do we measure up? For years and years and years, we were sustainable because we said so. It's in our mission. How do we, are you sustainable? Yes, we are. Why? Because we say we are. For a long time, probably the first 10 years of our existence, that was what we said. That was what we did. Now, we did do a lot of sustainable things, but, it's kind of like what we have now in social media, right? Pics or it didn't happen, right? So it's kind of like measurement or it didn't happen. Early on, there wasn't really a good way to measure it, and we were kind of half burners on these things. So, we were kind of out ahead, but we didn't really have a way of measuring it. So, we had an interim president in 2007. He was actually the dean of the College of Business, Dr. Richard Pagnetter. And while he was an interim president, again, College of Business in the past was not necessarily the ones that you first thought of for sustainability, right? You thought of the environmental majors and things like that. Business is actually a big driver in our sustainability. And our College of Business is a big driver in that. Dr. Dick Pagnetter, he actually drove a nice little sustainable car. He was great, so he became interim president. And really, without partnering with anybody, I'm interim president, I can do what I want. And he signed us up for the American College and University President's Climate Commitment, which I'm thrilled about because it's what got me my job as a sustainability coordinator at FGCU. So thank you, Dr. Pegnetter, the late Dr. Pegnetter. So in order for us to be in the President's Climate Commitment, which is universities across the nation making a commitment to go climate neutral, carbon neutral, we had to set out by doing a greenhouse gas inventory, which we now do regularly, that yours truly is in charge of pulling all those metrics. We had to set a target date along with milestones for becoming climate neutral. We had to take steps that we had to show, and we had to integrate sustainability into the curriculum. We already had that. We were really pioneers in having a course that all students at the university take in order to have sustainable learning outcomes, a sense of place. It's an upper level class so that it is actually tailored to your majors, so it's relevant to your careers, hopefully. So we joined the President's Climate Commitment, had to do greenhouse gas inventory, got my job. I think it was in 08 or 09 that I got the job. After that, we also signed up for ASHE, which is the Association for Sustainability in Higher Education. Has a STARS program. STARS stands for Sustainability Tracking, Assessment, and Reporting System, where the greenhouse gas inventory looked very specifically: how much electricity do you use, how much gasoline do you use, how much commuting do you have, how much fertilizer do you use, very concrete measures. The STARS report looks at how are we doing in academics, student and community engagement, operations, and administration and planning. And you can see the green is where we are achieving it. The blue is where we have a little bit further to go. So nobody can touch us academics-wise, not just because of the colloquium class, but because we actually infuse sustainability into about 30% of our classes overall. Engagement, we rock. Operations, we can continue to do better and achieve more. And then administrative and planning. Administration and planning, we're not as high up because we're very decentralized with sustainability. We're very from the ground up with sustainability. While we have it in our mission statement, we all embrace it. We're not necessarily as deliberate at setting goals or as setting metrics from on high, from up top. Policy, again, setting a goal like we're going to reduce our energy next year by 20%, those kind of things. We've been successful, so, what's the problem? Why would we want to do that, Yeah, we're fine. We're top in all the Florida schools. We get these metrics out, and I always I love scoring well, and I love getting heralded as a university for what we do. But when we come out on top, sometimes there isn't necessarily that competition for us to do better. We maybe rest on our laurels a little bit. We got to keep those plates spinning and continue to increase and improve. That's a harder argument when we're already at the top. Well, being at the top, we all know how much farther we could really go with these things, but so that's where we may have competing priorities. Okay, so FGCU policies and regulations, which ones do we already have that are related to sustainability? Because after you and I had the conversation, I'm like, well, what ones do we have? Yeah, well, because we know we're lacking in actual policy. Some of these that are related to policy and regulation on campus, fishing on campus, smoke-free and tobacco-free campus. I need to stop and talk about our smoke-free and tobacco-free campus. Years and years, faculty tried to get us to go smoke-free. Staff members tried to get us to go smoke-free. It wasn't until students wanted to go smoke-free that it happened. Again, it's a student voice that's super loud and super powerful. much more powerful. I work at the pleasure of the institution. I am employed by the institution. How much pushing and irritation can I be working within the institution, right? So I have to really, gain alliances and, people who agree with me. One of them, I'm getting ahead of myself, but a lot of people want something done. So they come to me. Come on, Kath, you do it. Well, if I'm just the one going and poking, they think that I'm the only one that wants it, right? So it almost has to be those groundswells. And it was a groundswell, actually, that made us smoke-free and tobacco-free. Another one that is a nice sustainable one is telecommuting. That is a brand new policy. Thank you, COVID. We didn't have a policy for it up until that time.
Is that gonna continue? Because I feel like they're telling people they have to come back now.
Initially, I only know this because of our Monday night green drinks, when we were able to have those. Dr. Martin, when everybody had to come back, it was really more of a showing that we are supporting our students. One of the things with telecommuting and flexible work schedules is, while our campus is huge, right, we're actually almost built out because we have to protect our wild places on campus. We have to protect our wetlands. We have to protect those recharge areas. So we're actually almost built out. One of the things that they were looking at prior to COVID was moving people off campus and only keeping things that are specific to student success and student services, those direct things on main campus. You don't need your procurement office here on campus. That can go somewhere else. HR can go somewhere else. If we have to prioritize who gets to be in what building. So before, they were going to have to possibly get off-site space that they rented, that they paid the electric bill on and all those kind of things, paid the insurance on. Now, this is just a prediction. This is nothing that they have come through and said directly, but they can use the telecommuting and flexible work schedules as we're building and remodeling a building, as we are running out of space. I think up until COVID, a lot of people were very uncomfortable by having their direct reports scattered to the wind. Like they wouldn't be working, they wouldn't be doing what they needed to do. If anything, I would say everybody kind of worked harder from home because they had to be more accountable. So that's where I see us going with
Yeah,
that.
I mean, my kitchen table turned into the College of Arts and Sciences advising office, and my wife was an advisor, so.
And
that was like all summer, and but the problem is that, from my end, is that she wouldn't stop working.
Right.
I'm like, hey, 5 o'clock.
Right.
She's like, oh, 8 more emails, and it'd be like 6:30.
Exactly. And I actually just go off on a tangent because it's all about me. No, just kidding. Because I work in environmental health and safety, I was able to piggyback on those folks being essential personnel. I actually got other duties as assigned. We had to go and rate all the labs for personal protective equipment and those kind of things early on. I do other duties as assigned as far as like lab safety and things like that. Sometimes fire drills, nothing's out of my realm. Again, I exist at the pleasure of the institution. But I could be on TV. I have, like small house people. Actually, my house is a mansion compared to those people who live in like 80 square feet. But I live in 800 square feet. Share it with my family, 1 bathroom, we have internet that if everybody's all on it at the same time, then, of course, my daughter has probably 3 or 4 or 5 gadgets going at one time. Trying to work from home with the deadlines that we had for some of our reporting things, horrible. So I actually got to come in all summer while everybody else wasn't here. But it's challenging to work from home, but we now have policy that allows us to, where before we kind of weren't even allowed to necessarily. People looked at it askance. So we do have, some of these things are kind of only secondarily or tertiarily related to policy, but a use of personal transportation methods instead of encouraging it, it tells us where we can't ride our bikes and our skateboards, things like that. We do promote people to have LEED ranked vehicles, which is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. Those of us that are staff members that have to pay, staff and faculty members that have to pay for our permits, we get a little bit of a discount on those. Sometimes students will get preferred parking if they've got a LEED vehicle. There's actually plenty of equity and diversity related ones as well, which of course are related to sustainability, like through the Sustainability Development Goals. Outside of policy, we also have certain commitments or promises or just practices that we do. So I told you guys already about the President's Climate Commitment, but we also have a commitment to build to LEED Silver. Again, LEED is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, or I always flip-flop the E's, I don't know which direction those go in. But to LEED Silver or better, we do have a platinum building here on campus, 1 or 2 golds and the rest are silver. And we are an Earth Chart affiliate. We signed the commitment for the Real Food Challenge, which has been a challenge, but that's another talk for another day. We are almost, if COVID hadn't hit, we would have been there already, a fair trade certified university. And fair trade is kind of where we're kind of branching off of the Real Food Challenge into items that are fair trade. You can find items that are fair trade food in the bookstore, in the dining services. We have to do a couple other things like build a committee and things like that, but again, that's what COVID killed. We do build it into our contracts. We build sustainability into our contracts with our builders, with our dining services, with our food services, with our copiers, with our vending machines. The last time I was involved with vending machine contracts, we required that they be Energy Star or Green Miser, which is another kind of a green ranking. We found that by doing that, we saved $6,000 a year just in electricity costs by going Energy Star. And then department goals. The department goals and things like that from that kind of ground level up are things as well. Now, we used to have our department goals much more aligned with our strategic goals, but a couple years ago, they changed our strategic goals, so not necessarily the same. Oh, okay, here we go. So here are our 2 gold buildings, is the Fine Arts 2 and Merritt Hall. Seidler Hall is platinum. The rest are silver certified. This is actually an old slide, so our numbers are actually better than this now. But when we made this slide, which I just copied and pasted because I was in a hurry, 26% of our gross square footage was LEED certified. Some of our buildings were prior to LEED, and we looked at those because a lot of those are actually very efficient. This building that we're in is actually built very efficiently, right? So we've got these overhangs that block the sun, we've got the tinted windows, we built it to where, we weren't spending a lot of electricity, because, we wanted to be stewards of the money, those kind of things. But to go backwards and have it certified costs big money. Why would we go backwards and spend money just to give ourselves a, attaboy, attagirl, when we could use that money on a better project going forward? So just because all of our buildings aren't LEED rated doesn't mean that those other buildings aren't sustainable or efficient. Our energy use per square foot has decreased. Actually, our energy use per student, really big challenge trying to get to climate neutral, carbon neutral, is we're a growing institution. We're bringing in more students. To bring in more students is to bring in more buildings, is to bring in more commuters, those kind of things. So we really have to balance, because we are a regional university, giving people opportunities for education versus shrinking our footprint. And if you look at us from a per student base, we have been dropping our greenhouse gases big time. If you look at us overall, they're starting to ratchet up. So again, this is just in practice. This is a chart showing our hazardous waste that we manage in environmental health and safety. And we had looked to see, as our student population grows, what would our costs grow to be. Also, there's different rankings and ratings for hazardous waste producers. The higher you go up in those, the more staff members you need, the more paperwork it requires, the more regulations there are. So it really behooved us to stay below those thresholds, not just from a funding standpoint, but also from a hiring and workload. So we saw the red line is enrollment, and then the blue line is how much hazardous waste we were on track to produce. Through lots of ally building, through lots of collegiality, through lots of partnerships across campus, and through some just good science, we were able to, even though the red line on that one is what the population actually grew to, the blue lines is how much we were able to shrink our hazardous waste usage. And usually you think of like hazardous waste, you think of like these science labs and the chemicals we're making. But that's the art labs. The art labs actually use quite a bit of hazardous materials, like in the glazes and in paints and things like that. In the science labs, we use, things like formaldehyde and ethyl methylkilia and I don't know, whatever the chemicals are. But a lot of the chemicals, we were able to partner with the lab managers. We were able to take their chemicals and we have a form of solve recycling. So it's basically like a big still. And we're able to actually purify the formaldehyde, give it back to the labs. Xylenes, we're able to purify those and give those back. So not only do we not have to spend money to have them go out as hazardous waste, and where does that hazardous waste go? Does it go in a barrel buried in the ground somewhere? We're not putting these things out into the earth where they can cause havoc. But we're able to minimize those, reuse them. We don't have to pay. The laboratory then also doesn't have to pay to buy more xylenes or acetones or formaldehydes, etc. So just these are the practices that we've done without us even having a policy. If I start running low on time or whatever, just throw something at me.
Can we do about 20 minutes and
Okay.
give us some time for questions?
Okay, cool. How does an FGCU policy get passed? What's the policy on policies? You can actually go online and look at the policies on policies, because I printed them out. I was almost going to read them to you. I couldn't make enough slides with the process that it goes through to make a policy. So, first of all, FGCU has always been wonderful on shared governance. More wonderful, there's always room to improve there too, but comparing to other schools per se. Our student government for the students, staff advisory council for the staff, and faculty senate must not have its own logo, because I just took a picture of faculty senate meeting. But
They probably could agree on one.
probably. So if a department wants to make a policy, if a group wants to make a policy, they basically draft it, they take it through to the vice president of each of those separate areas, and it goes through a series of things through the general counsel's office. They work with the general counsel's office to do all the legalese. It goes out, so then it goes back to the VP and president for review. It goes to the president's cabinet for review. It goes, if it's, it goes faculty senate, it goes staff advisory council, and it goes up for 14 days, at which point the general community has to respond to it. Now, problem with that sometimes is, sometimes it happens during the summer, where faculty members may be gone. The fishing one was a big one. It set off some alarms when they were revising the fishing policy. Again, I think that happened over the summer where a lot of our faculty members were gone. They get back, then they wanted to be like, hey, we don't like this. You can always revise a policy, but it takes probably a lot more to do it when it's not in its actual 14-day period. Then if there's no, and then you have a chance to, send some email type form or something to general counsel's office. Unless they're hearing a big groundswell, I think then it just kind of passes. So there is a policy on policies, there are constituencies that it has to go through. I won't belabor that. If you have questions on it later, I'm sure we can talk about it. But if you are interested in making change, if you are interested in creating a policy, a rule, a program, all those kind of things, it always starts with a good plan. Very difficult for one person to say, hey, I have an idea, I'm gonna go to general counsel's office, I'm gonna go to the VP, we're gonna make a policy. That's sometimes challenging. Also, you wanna make sure that you set a goal, as opposed to it being like, of course now my brain escapes me, but to be like, we should do more recycling. Well, what does that exactly mean? What do you mean by more recycling? Do you want to, increase our amount of containers? You want to decrease the amount of contamination? Are we trying to, what are the actual metrics you're going to put there? So your goal setting needs to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. We'll go into that a little bit more. So it's sometimes, I like this, because sometimes you want to see this as a journey, right? Your goal is where you want to end up being. Strategy is the route that you choose to get there. The tactics is the vehicle. Your target, I don't like the negativity that this sounds like, but your target is the roadblock. Who is it that's stopping you from making this happen? Now, they may mean to be a roadblock, or they may not. That's why I kind of have trouble with the analogy, because roadblock sounds so negative. But they may very well be a roadblock. And then, so you have to figure out the right route and vehicle so that you can move the roadblock or get around the roadblock so you can get to your destination. Part of that is, how do we build constituencies, alliances, build our groundswell? And I love this. My reusable bag makes me better than you. A lot of times, if we're wanting to sway someone over to our argument, it isn't, you suck, you should just do this, you're terrible, how dare you? And we become all sanctimonious, and we have our eco-snobbery and things like that. I actually was in a committee, it was a food services advisory committee, and I was there as a sustainability person, and there was a faculty member there who no longer works at the university, but she was very fervent, and she was a true believer, and she, on this food services advisory committee, was basically like, people shouldn't have a choice, everything should be like raw and vegan and healthy and those kind of things, and which is good, that's fine, but your customers also vote with their dollars, so that's more like, go for it if you can get the student body to agree with you and your fellow faculty members. And there was a faculty member on there who would disagree with her, and she would like scream at him. And also, every time dining services actually did something right, instead of going, way to go guys, this is great, awesome, she'd be like, oh yeah, but you still suck in all these other areas. So, where was there wanting to partner if all they're gonna do is be beat down and told how horrible they are, right? So how do we sway people? I like it to take it back to like Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence Others. Very important. And you want to kind of probably even build these networks before you even need them. But how do you convince people to come over to your side? So again, showing respect for the other people's opinions. You don't say, you're wrong. And if I happen to be wrong, I want to very quickly admit, oh, I was misguided. You always want to begin in a friendly way. You want to get the other person to saying yes, yes, immediately. So one of the things that I learned from one of our county commissioners here, he goes into a meeting and he says, raise your hand if you think it's good to have clean water. And pretty much, who could disagree with that? Everybody's like, yeah, I want clean water. And how many of you think that it's important to have, clean water for our tourism and for our drinking water? He would just go that way, and get everybody to agree, then they may have had disagreements like how to go and get to that point, but at least everybody was in agreement with kind of that end goal, because you got everybody to say, yes, yes, immediately. Because, you know, we have more alike than we have differences. Let the other person do the talking. Let the other person feel the idea is theirs. That's a challenge, but that sometimes really works very well. So being sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires, that's how you build and influence folks. This is just an example of creating that plan, right? How do you mobilize the student power? How are you going to organize the campus decision makers? And how are you going to build a coalition? And you have decision makers, those are the people who can really make the decision. I'm not one of them. I'm not the decision maker. Some people will come a lot of times to form the coalition and be like, oh, I need to get Kathleen on my side. Okay, great. As long as you're not just pushing me out in front and going, Kathleen will do it. That's her job. Because, again, it's so much more powerful to have the group. I used to, in my early days as a sustainability coordinator, I used to act like that filter. Somebody would come to me, and then I would take it to administration or to the decision makers. Well, again, then they just thought it was just me and my ideas. So I don't act as the filter anymore. I'll let you know who that person is that you should go talk to. Because the more they hear that people want these particular things or want these particular changes, the better. And then it's not just, oh God, here comes Kathleen again, you know, she's wanting some gooky green thing. It's gonna cost us money. I'm very frugal. Nothing costs money. Not out of my office. So again, setting that goal. Where do you want to be by the spring term? Where do you want to be by summer? Where do you want to be by fall? So actually spelling those out. It may not go exactly as that plan, but at least you're building that roadmap. And again, you can see here, mobilizing that student power and then organizing your decision makers and your coalition building. Those things you don't have to do one before you do the other. These things can be worked on in the same time period. Also, to being able to delegate those tasks. Do you have an RSO that you're working with? You know, if one person tries to do everything while they're also trying to do their studies and work part-time job and, you know, get those papers written. So, but you can see how those tactics can escalate. You can, again, do double duty. But again, you want to be very deliberate in what you're doing and why are you doing it in order to further your plan and further your goal ahead. So, if we're already practicing it, do we need a policy? When do we need a policy? And if I gave you a magic wand, what policy would you enact? I think I'll make that the question and answer period for this presentation.
Okay.
So, general questions, or if I were to give you a magic wand, what policy would you enact? Don't make me call on you. If I were to give you a magic wand,
Oh,
what policy would you enact?
I don't know.
I know, because there's so many, right?
Harsh consequences. That would be my policy. I don't know. Even though you just said that's not the way to do it, that's what beat somebody in this who just didn't want.
Carrots and sticks. You kill one, warn
yeah.
many, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's things that I would like to see. So, like, you know, glitter has been a big passion of mine. I would like to see that not happen anymore. Plastic water bottles are another big passion of mine. So it's
Single-use plastic.
Yeah, it frustrates me to see them in the vending machines, and you know, one of the things that's always kind of frustrating with me is that, like, we hang the Eagles for clean water and the We Love Our Tap water signs. We hang those all over the water fountains, but the people looking at those are the people already using the water fountains. So those are big passions of mine. I would like to see, you know, a better selection of, like, vegan and vegetarian and healthy options in our vending machines and at our food courts. I know, I mean, I've been to Soviet almost a year now because of COVID, but I I thought Sophie always did a pretty nice job.
They still do, and they still are, but that's not always where people are at lunchtime.
Yeah.
Dinner, maybe, but again, if you live in North Lake,
Yeah,
you live in
and-
Westlake, you live off campus.
It's, I mean, like, as a faculty member, and like, I used to, like, my stepson, you know, he'll be on campus sometime, like, when, you know, life is normal. And, you know, yeah, he'll want a hamburger or something, and like, we go to like BYOB, and you get like him like a burger and fries and a soda, and it costs me like $12. But I could take him to Sobe, and like, I could, you know, buy him like, you know, with my faculty pass, it's like $5.50 to get him in there, and he can eat all the hamburgers and fries he wants.
And they have some really good non-meat hamburgers now too.
Yeah,
They've got
they
a
do.
couple really
So-
good, I'm not a vegetarian, I'm a less meatitarian, I guess I'm a flexitarian. We're kind of like weekend meat eaters. Cause I had a friend who was like, well, you're not a vegetarian, why do you keep eating all these vegetarian things? Eating lower on the food chain, cause I like it, cause it's delicious. And let me tell you, those non-meat burgers that they have they have like 2 or 3 different kinds.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have the variety too, because a lot of my vegetarian and vegan friends, it's like, you know, I can only eat so much of this one thing. There wasn't the choice of the variety. We've gotten much better with variety in soap, but I can't say for our other concession areas.
Yeah, I mean, like, like, I know Publix has like a really good veggie sub, but if you go to like the Boar's Head and you get their veggie sub, it tastes like disappointment, and it costs.
It tastes like sadness.
It costs like, yeah, it costs like $8 too. And if I could change one more thing with my magic wand, I would not hire faculty members that don't believe in climate change. So, these are my environmental nerds, and so they think that like, who doesn't believe in climate change? But like, take a walk over to Luckard.
And again, this is something that early on, now things have changed, and I was gone, I'm just gonna say I was gone. Not that I would have necessarily been able to stop it. However, back when we used to do, faculty are evaluated one way, staff members are evaluated another way. But, and departments set their goals a particular way as well. So back in the day, if you created department goals, they had to tie with the university's strategic goals, which was difficult because we didn't have sustainability as one of those strategic goals. So as we were wanting people to do these things, we might tie it into, you know, wonderful infrastructure, technology, or engagement, or these kind of things. So we actually were able to work that path from a department goal setting standpoint to where it did tie directly to those strategic goals. We don't do that same type of department goal setting these few years later. They have different workday systems and things that they brought in. The other thing is when a staff member is being evaluated, we're evaluated on how much do we embrace diversity, you know, normal job things like do they do their job, how's their attendance, how's their leadership, how's their attitudes, and we wanted to put in there with like embraces diversity, also, you know, do we act in a sustainable, efficient manner, do we embrace sustainability? So if you're measured on it, you're more likely to do it. One of the things we're looking at for like the student government budget processing, no matter what kind of RSO it is, in the budget processing, tell me how you will run your club more sustainably and more efficiently, right? So that way everybody starts thinking about how do I run my events more sustainably. So kind of to go along with your point of not hiring them in the first place, and then let's kind of measure it and to remind people kind of what the fabric of our university is.
Right.
Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Are there any initiatives that you are currently working on to promote sustainability on the university or student level?
Other than glitter is litter. One of the other things that is a passion of mine, and this is probably kind of like a multi-year goal setting kind of a thing. I want FGCU to be recognized as bicycle friendly. We are not bicycle friendly. We have some nuances of it, but for us to be more pedestrian, skateboard, bicycle, non-motorized transportation friendly. Some of these things are coming through our, what's that process, planning process, 5-year plan kind
Yeah.
of process and things like that. One of the things too, as soon as the road gets repaved, we're gonna be able to repaint the road to put it on a road diet. We've had conversations like with campus police and things like that, and they're behind it. We just have to wait, because it costs tens of thousands of dollars. It's already gonna happen, but it's not gonna happen for another year to 18 months. But once that happens, we don't have to have these big wide lanes on the loop road, because those just say, you know, our speed limit is like 20, 25. Those big, long, wide lanes are like, go fast, go super, super fast. Road diets actually do slow down the traffic, and that would give us more space, you know, for the bikes and the skateboards and things like that too. So that's that's a long-term initiative we've been working on, and hope to continue on that. But there's lots of departments and lots of divisions that are working on their own as well. So, but that's mine. That's transportation is one of my passion things. Katie, who was my replacement, and then I replaced her. We joke that I'm the recycled sustainability coordinator. But Katie's big passion was food and food systems. And so we got the chef's garden out at Sovi, and we, you know, have a bigger commitment to FLOSN, FLOSN, which is fresh, local, organic. What does the S stand for?
Sustainable?
I don't know if the S stands for
I was
sustainable or
just
not.
a guess.
And then, in season. And, shoot, I'm missing my acronym, but it basically, you try to hit as many of those things as you can, food-wise. You're not always gonna be perfect, but, you know, are we getting things in season? Are we getting them fresh? Are we getting them local? We're getting them organic? And then there's another letter in there that I'm totally going on. But, so yeah, lots of passion projects. And then the other thing too is, once you get something in there, it's not like, okay, we're done, we're moving on to the next thing, because you gotta keep those plates kind of spinning on some of those things too. Yes, ma'am?
Have we ever had, or is it possible to have like a fresh food, local market kind of situation, like on campus in our little campus circle lawn thing? Is that
You
something
mean
that
like a
happens?
farmer's market?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, this was gonna be the year where we were gonna really expand the farmer's market idea. Because students about 5-6 years ago started one, it was actually kind of in North Lake Village in that auxiliary parking lot, and then they brought it in on main campus, had been like under the pavilion, so they got down to just like one provider. And he was great, but it was just one provider. They were trying to build it back up to be like more of a market. They had moved it onto the plaza, but with COVID, as a matter of fact, I was just speaking with Marlon, who's the student government director of sustainability. He keeps kind of pushing back, going, when can we have a farmer's market? Hey, we have food trucks. If we have food trucks, why can't we have a farmer's market? He keeps kind of like pushing for that. So far, because of COVID, they have pushed back and said, no, we're not having it until further notice. However, that being said, if you are looking for farmers markets in and around the area, there is one at the university shops just off campus. That's on Saturday mornings. I think Friday is over across the street, over at the Miramar outlets, and different things. But yes, we will be bringing it back onto campus.
Does FSW still do one?
I actually was in charge of the one at FSW. Did you know that?
No.
That was my baby. When we first opened, it was huge. And we actually had Eat Sustainably, was a Lee County group who managed it for us, and they actually paid us for the space. And it was very popular to begin with, but then it waned, and then they didn't want to be with us anymore because they really wanted to be out in front on the road for the outside people, where we kind of wanted them to be in the center of campus. The compromise was kind of in between the two, so kind of neither was successful. So they had been, but they aren't doing it anymore. That being said, Collier campus still is on, like they'll have special event, like on food day, they'll bring the vendor guy out.
Yeah.
Different kinds of sustainable events they'll bring to the Collier campus. Yes, ma'am?
Okay, so with a lot of the food plans, you get like a bunch of flex dollars. it all being wrapped in plastic. Like,
this has been here in plastic, it kills
I've
me.
been trying to like get like fruits and stuff, and there's like usually like one thing in the marketplace, and like that's it. And
Like, they're
then-
even wrapping bananas in plastic.
Yeah, and they've
stuff.
been wrapping all the fruit and everything is wrapped in plastic, which I get, like it's a COVID thing, but also just like in the stores and stuff, there's not even like that many options to
No.
get anything healthy. A bunch of stuff is just like small individual packed like snacks, and you can't like get anything.
Yeah, there are places, as a matter of fact, the folks who run business operations, I am thrilled because they are super sustainability minded, but they may need a little nudge. They may need a little bit of student voice to say, you know, we vote with their dollars, this is what we want, please bring these things in. I highly encourage, matter of fact, Casey Garcia runs some operations and business operations. Katarina Danks, she is in dining services. They're also going to be bringing back the Food Services Advisory Council, which I encourage students to get involved with. Another way that you can get involved or know what's going on, all the typical ones, right? So we do promote it out as they're looking for student input and things like that. If you want to follow the Facebook, the Twitter, and the Insta. Oh, even better, please join this one. Or send me an email and I'll get you hooked up into it. We have a Canvas group, Eco FGCU, which is the Environmental Coalition of FGCU. Now, the Environmental Coalition of FGCU has kind of waned, and again, where I said we need to keep those plates spinning. We're bringing back Eco FGCU in a big way. For a while, it kind of just existed as a Canvas group. Eco FGCU originally started because we had a number of RSOs that were related to sustainability or interested in sustainability, but they didn't necessarily have a means to connect with each other. So these folks may have been working on zero plastic over here, these folks may have been working on zero plastic over there, but they're like small little eddies, you know, swirling about in the pond. Putting them together certainly helps leverage. It also helps to have multiple groups to do a Senate bill and things like that, or just to even know what's going on in everybody else's club or RSO. Now, we do have Eagle Link, but it's not necessarily kind of that free flow of information. So we are looking to bring back as an actual meeting group, again, it'll have to be virtual for a while, but we are looking to actually have meetings with various folks that have an interest or have a club or an RSO, sorry, I don't call them clubs, so that we can all kind of have this cross-pollination of ideas. We are also, COVID willing, going to have a sustainability retreat with Eco FGCU. We wanted to have it this semester, but COVID. We really do want to have an in-person retreat. And we'll have to cap it at about 40, but I'm going to kind of set that invitation net wide. And, you know, we will do our proper social distancing and that stuff. Probably right before Eagles Earth Week. Now, many of you know that the United States Earth Day, Worldwide Earth Day, happens at the end of April. End of April for us has always been terrible because it's during final exams and when all your final projects are due and dead week and things like that. So we've never had our Eagles Earth Day or Eagles Earth Week near the real Earth Day. We've always had it earlier than that. And now with the way student government budgets and things like that move, we're actually all the way into mid-March. We're way back up in that. But there are opportunities to get involved with Eagles Earth Week. And we're probably on the front end of that going, that's when we're going to have our retreat for Environmental Coalition of FGC. But if you will follow us on our various social media, whatever one is your favorite, like nobody's on Facebook anymore, right? Because that's my mom, that's me, and I am a mom, you know. But I don't have a Snapchat yet for the department, but it seems like everybody's on Insta, right? So, but if you'll join the Canvas page, that's where we put up, you know, we cross-pollinate those two. So if you're on one, you'll get the information from the others. Because we are stronger together, and we are stronger with the student voice. Because I'm telling you, it's students, it's faculty, and then it's staff.
I will tell you guys that you know, if you want, you know, some change to happen here, if you wrote President Martin an email, that goes a lot further than if I wrote President Martin an email.
And even further than if I did.
Yeah, so I you know, it's speaking from like experience a few years ago, did you know Julie in the food forest, in the Marshwoods?
Yes,
And
yes.
she got like $20,000 from President Martin, and she just walked up to him. I mean, he didn't give it like cash to her.
Yeah, here, let me write a check.
She was like, hey, the food forest is kind of like, in rough shape after the hurricane. A lot of people graduated, and we're trying to like, beef it up a little bit. And like, she just walked up to him because she saw him on the library lawn one day. And he's like, yeah, call my secretary, set up a meeting. And, like a week later, she had a meeting with President Martin, and he liked what she had to say, and he gave her the money for the food forest. And it was just like that, but like, I could write the guy emails all day, and I don't even know if he reads them. But, he definitely cares what students think.
Not that he doesn't care what we think,
He
but
cares
again,
more what you think.
he cares more what you think. The other side of it too, if you ever want to, hang out with Dr. Martin, when we get beyond this COVID thing, we were having, once a month, we were having green drinks. And green drinks is an international social hour. Different groups in different areas have a networking event, and we were having them the last Monday of the month out at the boardwalk in North Lake Village. But our official green drinks was that date, but really it was every single Monday out at Azul's Brew House. And again, if you're under 21, or 21 soon, but if you're under 21, they have great gelato, they have other things, treats and things like that. It wasn't like where everybody was throwing down while they got there. But it was all like-minded sustainability folks. And Dr. Martin is often there. So if you say, be ready with your elevator speech. Be ready with, really be ready with your elevator speech anytime, because you never know who you're gonna meet. Have your elevator speech for, what you want to do career-wise. Have your elevator speech with what kind of change do you want to elicit. All those kind of things, just keep them in your back pocket. What would happen if I ran into Dr. Martin? What would happen if I ran into the CEO of the company where I wanted my job? Kind of script it out a little bit, be ready, so you're not caught off guard on those kind of things. But yeah, if you ever want to hang out with Dr. Martin, we haven't been doing it but we will start that back up again, and you will see it on the Canvas page. And it's fun, it's delightful. Just like me.
I promise to start showing up to them too.
Yeah.
So, I used to be busy every Monday and I couldn't go, but.
I'll be your designated driver. I'll get you across campus.
Oh, okay. You gonna drive me all the way back to Cape Coral?
No. But
And then I'll need
I
to
can
ride
find
back-
somebody to carpool with you.
I'll
That's
need
the
to
other
ride
thing.
back Tuesday morning.
Okay, talked about initiatives too earlier, like what initiatives are we wanting to do? Again, transportation is my passion. And we had Zipcar on campus. Their contract ended, and with COVID, and they weren't getting a lot of business with that hourly car rental. Unfortunately, they pulled out. We're looking to do more hourly car rental, trying to get another company back up and running, but like kind of the whole rental car industry is kind of on a precipice right now. But we also had Wheelie, which was an app to help you do carpool matching. Wheelie, unfortunately, has gone out of business. So now we have a Facebook group, Ride to FGCU. It's only open to FGCU people. You have to have an FGCU email address in order to gain entry into the group. Right now, you want to be very careful in carpooling with other people. Again, if you're carpooling, make sure you've got outside ventilation, you got your windows cracked, you're wearing your masks, you're not talking a lot. But we are going back toward matching people for carpool, whether it's to and from campus or whether it's like home for the holidays. I didn't promote it big time this time for Thanksgiving, number one, because I don't want people traveling for Thanksgiving. And I really don't want people traveling together for long periods of time. Going forward, as we climb our way out of this, I am looking to build back our carpooling circuits, and you reminded me talking about driving to Cape Coral, because I drive from North Naples. So being able to find out who all is within like your zip code area. We used to have a program, and it was actually ride to fgcu.com, and it would show you, it wouldn't show exactly where you lived, right? And at the hours you'd be gone, because it's like, hello, I'm not home, come rob me. Or hello, I am home, come rape me, or something terrible like that. But it would match people from like the closest major intersection and things like that. We're bringing that back. We're starting with like those one-time trips, but I'm pushing it into the commuting once it's safe to do so. So we'll get you that ride to Cape Coral,
Okay.
especially once, how old's your son?
He's 15.
So he's gonna be wanting to have the car. And he'll
no.
take the truck, he'll take the truck, and Chad will be like, I need a ride to work.
He can ride his bicycle until he's 18 and he moves out and buys his own car.
Yeah, no, I didn't get the third
Yeah,
car, the
so-
insurance is too crazy,
Yeah.
Nope, carpool.
All right. Well, thank you for coming. So.
And you guys, anytime you have a question or want, one of my magic powers, my magic wand, is knowing like who does what on campus. I don't always have the answers, but I always know who has the answers. Don't be like, hey, I know this isn't really your area, but, I used to love it when student government would call me and be like, hey Kath, I know this isn't your area, but we're looking to put baby changing stations in the men's rooms. Who would I talk to about that? And I'm like, oh, I know just the person to talk to. So don't think, oh, this has nothing to do with sustainability. I love weird questions, so.
Margaret, just give me 30 seconds, okay? All right. So thank you again.
Thank you. I'll take my leave.
All right. So if I don't see you after Thanksgiving, have a great holiday, great winter break. Stay in touch, and I hope to see many of you guys around.